welcome to everyone, especially to visitors. We have visitors from the Interfaith Youth Group who are going to speak to us today about their trip to South Dakota. Would you stand up and wave so that we can see you? Oh. There they are. They really are here. And we have other visitors I can see around, I suspect, who've come to hear what they have to say. Would anybody like to introduce yourself, or do you want to be incognito? All right, we're in Vermont, so everybody's incognito. All right. I only moved here 40 years ago from California, and I'm still shocked by the humble humility of Vermonters. So. Okay, so we have a few announcements. One is I'd like to mention that if there are people who are considering becoming members of the church, I'd love to have you talk to me and just let me know. Lucy's holding up a packet, the red packets, which would give you a chance to read about what it means to be a member. Once we know who will be in the little cohort, then we'll arrange a date to meet and talk together. So I hope you'll consider that. We have another few announcements, and they're all in orderly progression. So who's the one first? Gentleman first? Okay.
Get the boring one out of the way first. This is a preview for the annual meeting, which is in November 11th, I believe. We're going to be voting on some changes to the bylaws. And I've been a part of a small work group that's been poring over the bylaws, and we've presented them to council. And we thought we'd do something new this year rather than having people see them for the first time at the annual meeting. We're going to distribute them probably this week by email, and if you don't have email, we'll make printed copies for you, so that everybody gets a chance to see what the changes are, and then we're going to schedule some meetings for if there are any questions. So that's the plan.
Okay.
How's that?
Well, check if we don't have your email address, I'd like to give it to us.
So we get an email from Fred Brunig.
Hi, I'm Nancy Leach. I'm the co-chair of the pie sale that's coming up Columbus Day weekend. Takes a lot of hands to roll dough and fill those pies, and if I could just have everyone yell out for a minute your favorite pie. Okay, sounds like we're going to have all of those. We're going to have rhubarb, which is something nobody has this time of year, but thanks to Al Franklin, we're going to have rhubarb pie, raspberry pie. It's a lot of fun to work the pie sale, and we need help starting on Thursday evening, anytime Friday, all up until 10 o'clock at night. We'll have a free supper for people that want to be there around that time of the evening Friday. And then Saturday, we need people to show up to set up the tent and take down the tent, as well as sell pies. So there's lots of different jobs for folks, and it's fun, a lot of wonderful fellowship, and hope to see as many of you as possible there. Also, I thought maybe this year, how many people are on Facebook? Can I just see a show of hands? Ooh, okay. If you see a posting for the pie sale, how many of you know how to share that? Oh, great. Okay, we're going to try that this year too. Thanks so much. I'll be downstairs if you want to sign up to donate ingredients, come to the pie sale.
Now, Nancy, you're really not going to put that hat on? That's why we're all here.
My head is too big.
Good morning. My name is Sue Owings, and I'm the coffee hour coordinator. And I thought I was coming today to share a very radical message with you about today being the first day that we're just going to do beverages every Sunday except on the second Sunday of the month, and then we're going to just do it a potluck. But we had a funeral here yesterday, and there's a lot of food left over. So I came today to do just beverages, and lo and behold, there's a whole refrigerator full of food. So I have a feeling that's kind of the way things are going to go around here. But officially, from starting the 30th of this month, we're going to have just beverages and, like I said, refreshments on the second Sunday of the month, potluck. There is a long list down by the kitchen of coffee maker angels that have signed up. Most weeks are filled up through December. So those of you who can't wait to find out how to run the coffee maker, come hang out in the next couple of months, and then you too can sign up. Because after December 23rd, it is, let's just hope somebody signs up for coffee, because, you know, I just think it's about fellowship. And we just love being downstairs, visiting with everyone, and I'm gonna have a lot of faith that the coffee hour makers are just gonna be like the loaves and fishes. We're just gonna keep expanding. So, here we go.
Thank you. So speaking of loaves and fishes, yesterday at this time, this church was full of people, most of whom had never been in this church, celebrating the life of Wilma Higgins, who had come here ever since she was a child. And she died at the age of 92. And thanks to all your generosity and for what you do to keep this church afloat, we were able to welcome them and receive them. You'll taste the remainder at the coffee hour, and you can see some of the flowers here in the sanctuary that they left for us with thanks. So if we can hold Wilma in our hearts today and her family with gratitude. Other thing I want to mention, speaking of coming to the church and having a reception, is that next Sunday, it's been in the bulletin, but I haven't really talked about it. We have potluck for newish and youngish members. So people who just joined the church in the past couple years, people who are a little bit younger and who have fresh ideas. We're going to share a meal and have a couple fun things we'll do together. Not threatening, I promise. But we love to get the voices of people who are new to the church and new to this plant speaking. Pardon? I think it's 5. 4?
4 p.m.
4 p.m. Okay, I'm glad it's the 4 p.m. Yeah. So we'll talk for a while, eat a little bit, and everybody can go home on Sunday night and still be fresh for work the next day. We are now kind of rolling into the service, but we have one more little thing. This is the first Sunday of Sundays, the first month of Sunday school. Last week we heard about Cody and what she did through the generosity of the church at camp. We have 2 other not yet confirmees who've been working hard all summer, and they are about to display their great accomplishments. We try to do all sorts of things in the church and Sunday school, but we also want to make sure that the basic pieces of Christianity are in place. So, ladies, Lila, Genevieve, if you would like the rest of you to find your Bibles and look at the books of the Bible and watch how perfectly they recite them, and then applaud after. So where's the mic?
The New What?
That's the other one.
1, 2, 3. The Old Testament. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, Joshua, Judges, Ruth, 1 Samuel, 2 Samuel, 1 Kings, 2 Kings, 1 Chronicles, 2 Chronicles, Ezra, Nehemiah, Esther, Job, Psalms, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, Song of Songs, Isaiah, Jeremiah, Lamentations, Ezekiel, Daniel, Hosea, Joel, Amos, Obadiah, Jonah, Micah, Nahum, Habakkuk, Zephaniah, Haggai, Zechariah, Malachi. The New Testament. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Acts, Romans, 1 Corinthians, 2 Corinthians, Galatians, Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians, 1 Thessalonians, 2 Thessalonians, 1 Timothy, 2 Timothy, Titus, Philemon, Hebrews, James, 1 Peter, 2 Peter, 1 John, 2 John, 3 John, Jude, Revelation.
How about that? They're going to get 800s on their SAT test. No, isn't that amazing? And they even pronounce them correctly. Pretty awesome. All right. So let's take some time now in silence and meditation. What? Oh yeah, birthdays. Right. Sorry, you have a birthday?
Yeah, it was you actually.
Okay.
So today is my brother-in-law's birthday, Matthew Cook, and also my Antoine's cousin's ones from me. They're twins and they're 7 years old today.
Wow, so some twins and a brother-in-law, Matt and Lucy.
Matt is 30 today.
So that's the same Matt, right? So that's the same Matthew. Yeah, okay, 32.
Our beloved sister Nancy Compton had a birthday on top like a pirate.
Okay, and Nancy. Who else?
Who just turned 18?
Cheryl.
My mother, Betty Spiller's birthday is next Sunday. They'll be away celebrating her birthday, so
So we'll sing
we'll sing today.
to you. And my son Ian will be 38 this week. How is that possible? Miriam.
Olivia, but I don't call her that, but she's turning 46 on Thursday.
Your Aunt Olivia? Is that what you said? Lydia is turning 46. Anybody else? All right, let's sing. Happy birthday, we love you. Happy birthday, and may all your dreams come true. When you blow out the candles, one light stays aglow. It's the love light in your eyes wherever you go. Amen. Now let us pause in silence and meditation in gratitude that we are all here together and for this beautiful day. As they light the candles, the symbol of Christ's love and light. Each Sunday we light a candle for some part of the world that we would like to envelop in love and prayers and comfort. And this week we will do that for the people of La Plante and Swiftburg in South Dakota, the people that the Interfaith Youth have worked with each year. And the choir. you turn in your bulletins, we have a responsive reading that is taken from the words of Geronimo. Most of the readings that we have today are written by elders of Native American communities who had somewhat tragic deaths, and certainly Geronimo is one. I'd like to think that the work we do in South Dakota is beginning to heal some of those tragedies. The song that I will sing is an old song. So old that none knows who made it. It has been handed down through generations and was taught to me when I was but a little child. It is now my own song. It belongs to me. This is a holy song, a medicine song, and great is its power. The song tells how, as I sing, I go through the air to a holy place where wisdom, the supreme being, will give me power to do wonderful things. We are surrounded by little clouds, and as we go through the air, I change, becoming spiritual only. Now if I could invite you all to stand and sing together our opening hymn, number 65, taken from the Lakota tradition. Insert page 2. We're continuing with the prayer for confession in preparation for a time of silence. From chaos, God has drawn boundaries, night from day, water of the earth from water held in the sky, earth from sky, sea from dry land. Boundaries are intentional, necessary, and purposeful for life and health and growth to occur. Today we affirm that human boundaries have not been kept. Prophets and pipelines have been preferred over people. So today we begin to redraw a boundary. We say, this is not the way of the maker of all things. The creator of the universe has a different way, a different path, a different order to the earth. Please pause now in silence and meditation. The impact of what happens among the Lakota, Nakota, Dakota, and all the other tribal nations happens to us all. We belong to each other. We covenant today to help protect the waters of this land and this earth. We will also speak and act that death may not overtake our native sisters and brothers.
While the choir is singing, I want you to learn the song that they're singing, so you can walk along, but you don't have to join us this time through. We should stand up further back so that we are. So I would love it if you guys could all go there, because the kids are going to be down here, and we're staying here. So let's get you a chair. You're trying to see for it. Sure. Don't be nervous. You don't have to sing right now, but next time. Once all the way through.
Okay, good morning. So we're continuing along with wisdom stories, and we've had 2 from the continent of Africa. But today, since the people who've gone to South Dakota are here, I thought we'd take a story from the Native American tradition. And this one also has a spider in it, so I brought the spider along. Spiders are really good. This one is from the Kiowa tribe, and that's on the prairies of Oklahoma, which is not too far from where we go. And there are 4 animals involved. Often in these stories, each animal has a gift that they bring to the group, and then they achieve what they're trying to achieve. And this time there are 4 animals. I thought I'd see if you could recognize them. I know that the people who've gone to South Dakota know this animal, so they can tell us. Anybody know what this is?
A weird-looking chicken.
A weird-looking chicken. Like that, what?
A pheasant.
No, it's anybody? Prairie chicken. So it is a chicken, it is a weird chicken.
I knew it.
And it lives on the prairie. And look at the feathers. Can you imagine how beautiful those feathers must be if they're trying to make beautiful things with feathers? Yeah. So that's a prairie chicken. See if you know this one. Oh, we should talk about the gift of the prairie chicken. You know how the prairie chicken can run? I sort of gave you a cheat, but look, really fast, like just across the prairie, just across the desert. And then we have,
Is
Yeah.
that a wolf?
nope,
Oh,
I'm gonna ask somebody else. What?
coyote.
Coyote, wily coyote. What can a coyote do?
Coyote?
It can run, but you know how it runs? Kind of like, it can kind of go zigzag in and out of tricky places, right? Okay, so that's a coyote, that's the next. And then we have,
Oh my, the chicken again.
no, it's not a chicken. I did it just so you could see its feathers. What is that?
Like a...
It's a hint. This time of year, we like to go up on Putney Mountain and see them. What?
Is it a hawk?
It's a, what do you think?
Is it a desert hawk or something?
Yeah, it's a Cooper hawk, but the Native Americans call it a swift hawk because, and you know what it can do really well? It can dive down and pick something up really fast. So it's up in the air, kind of flying, and then it sees something and it dives down and gets something. And what about this? Anybody knows what this is? Nevaeh. An eagle. And what can eagles do?
They can pick stuff right out of the water.
That is true, they can pick stuff out of the water. In this story, they fly really high. Really, really, really high. Okay, so the story is, and you know a little bit of this because I think you did a little bit of it this summer, is that there were people who were living in the darkness. And the darkness was just on all their world. And then on the other side of the planet, everybody was in light. But they kept bumping into each other. And you can imagine if you bump into somebody in the dark, and then you go, hey, don't bump into me, and then they'd be fighting, and it was really very frustrating. And so finally, one person said, you could sort of see the person coming and say, can we not bump into each other and just talk about this? And then they found another friend, and they were still in the dark, and they were still talking about it. But one person had this idea that I know that there's a place where there's light, and they use the light and they play a game, and they run back and forth and they kick the light back and forth, sort of like soccer, from what I can figure, that they actually use the sun for a ball. And so they came up with a plan that that Coyote was going to join the team, and he was going to run through people and grab the sun, and then he was going to give it to Prairie Chicken, and Prairie Chicken was going to what? Go away. And then once Prairie Chicken had the sun, then Swift Hawk would dive down and get it and take it to Eagle, and Eagle would fly to the other side of the planet and they would have the sun. So because everybody's standing there waiting for the end of the story, I think I will tell you that that is exactly what they did. Coyote kind of snuck in there, and he said, hey, could I play? You guys aren't doing it. And they said, sure, come and play. And sure enough, he got the ball and he through. And then he said, Prairie Chicken, where are you? And Prairie Chicken did what prairie chickens do, popped up out of nowhere, grabbed the ball and took it away. And then he was running, he was getting tired, and he said, Swift Eagle, where are you? Swift Hawk, where are you? And Swift Hawk came from the sky, grabbed it, and then flew, and then he looked for the eagle, and the eagle grabbed it and took it way up into the sky, and then it took it to the dark side. And then they realized that this thing was really hot, and they didn't know what to do with it. And so then they asked Spider. And Spider, Lila made this, but Spider wove a web around the sun and threw it up into the sky. And so it's up there in the sky, and then as the earth turns, everybody has a turn to have light. How beautiful is that? And that's how the sun got up in the sky. Pretty cool, huh? All right, let's pray. Dear God, we thank you for the gifts of Coyote and Prairie Chicken and Swift Hawk and Eagle and Spider, and that they thought, besides fighting, we might work together to bring light to the world. Amen.
Now it's your turn. But we're going to lead you. And Lucy Sparglese is
showing you the hand sign for the words in this song, which is just hallelujah, the word. And that side of the room is going to signal you all for when you exit around. And they're going to use this signal to show you. We will signal the middle, and this will signal that side. But the first time through, we're going to all be together. And you can feel free to do this anytime you want. 1, 2, 3, and
Crazy Horse was quoted as saying to follow him while he sat smoking the sacred pipe with Sitting Bull for the last time. Crazy Horse was killed 4 days later by U.S. Army soldiers in a hand-to-hand scuffle as they attempted to imprison him. Upon suffering beyond suffering, the Red Nation shall rise again, and it shall be a blessing for a sick world, a world filled with broken promises, selfishness, and separations, a world longing for light again. I see a time of 7 generations when all the colors of mankind will gather under the sacred tree of life, and the whole earth will become one circle again. In that day, there will be those among the Lakota who will carry knowledge and understanding of unity among all living things, and the young white ones will come to those of my people and ask for wisdom. I salute the light within your eyes, where the whole universe dwells. For when you are at that center within you, and I am at that place within me, we shall become one.
Today's scripture reading is from Ezekiel chapter 37, verses 1 through 13. The hand of the Lord was on me, and he brought me out by the Spirit of the Lord and set me in the middle of a valley. It was full of bones. He led me back and forth among them, and I saw a great many bones on the floor of the valley, bones that were very dry. He asked me, "Son of man, can these bones live?" I said, "Sovereign Lord, you alone know." Then he said to me, "Prophesy to these bones and say to them, 'Dry bones, hear the word of the Lord. This is what the Sovereign Lord says to these bones. I will make breath enter you, and you will come to life. I will attach tendons to you and make flesh come upon you and cover you with skin. I will put breath in you, and you will come to life. Then you will know that I am the Lord." So I prophesied as I was commanded. And as I was prophesying, there was a noise, a rattling sound, and the bones came together, bone to bone. I looked, and tendons and flesh appeared on them, and skin covered them, but there was no breath in them. Then he said to me, "Prophesy to the breath, prophesy, Son of Man, and say to it, 'This is what the Sovereign Lord says, come, breath, from the 4 winds, and breathe into these slain that they may live.'"
So I prophesied as he commanded me, and breath entered them. They came to life and stood up on their feet, a vast army. Then he said to me, Son of man, these bones are the people of Israel. They say, our bones are dried up and our hope is gone. We are cut off. Therefore, prophesy and say to them, this is what the sovereign Lord says. My people, I am going to open your graves and bring you up from them. I will bring you back to the land of Israel. Then you, my people, will know that I am the Lord when I open your graves and bring you up from them.
So now we have the pleasure of welcoming the travelers so that we can see a little bit, hear a little bit about the work that they've been doing.
My name is Rob Spila, and we're going to tell you a little bit about the trip to South Dakota that we had. And please forgive me if any of this is repetitive from when we presented you before we left. A little bit of the backstory of our trip is that this is the fourth time the Brattleboro Area Interfaith Youth Group has gone to South Dakota. And it's the first time for all of the travelers. I went once before. I was the only one that had gone once before. And I'm a member of the Brattleboro Rotary Club, who has also had a connection to the Lakota people in South Dakota, Pine Ridge. And this year we wanted to do something to help raise awareness about the situation on the reservations. And we thought we could support the trip of travelers from this church and the area interfaith youth group. So we got behind that, and I'm hoping that that connection between the Brattleboro Rotary Club and the Interfaith Youth Group can continue for years, because this was a really fantastic experience, and we're going to tell you more about it.
Hi everybody, I'm Julianne Egan, and I was here in the spring presenting, and I mentioned that I've had the great honor of being the teacher of many of the students who have gone on this trip over the years, and being in school at Brattleboro Area Middle School at the same time these students were there as 7th and 8th graders. And I just want to say that, as I mentioned in the spring, my husband and my son Isaac were part of the first group who went, and they told me when they came back that it was really hard to explain the experience exactly, that you really had to be there to fully understand what the people of Cheyenne River are like, and what the experience of working with them in the context of Simply Smiles was like. And of course, they were right. I knew they were right. I will say that having been a history and English teacher and having taught these topics in my curriculum, nothing can really replace sitting with the pain of this history. Some part of our history that for many of us we are able to put on the periphery of our consciousness day to day, and many of us can't do that, of course. And yet this history affects deeply, of course, the people of the Cheyenne River, but it affects deeply all of us. And so being in this experience with these young people was a great honor. And being in this experience with the young people of the Cheyenne River Reservation was an amazing honor. And I really am, there are many things that touched me about the trip, one of those things was seeing how the children of the Cheyenne River Reservation opened their hearts to these young people you see standing before you, and how these young people opened their hearts to this experience. So I want to thank the people of Guilford Community Church for supporting this trip, and I think there's a lot to be said for the continuity that this is the 4th year that we've been able to go on this trip, and that there's so many people in this community now, in the Guilford Church community, who have a relationship with the Cheyenne River Reservation. So we're going to talk more about the trip itself, and I believe Alex is going to talk about Simply Smiles.
Hi, I'm Alex Shriver. I'm a 10th grader at UHS, and this is the first year I've ever gone. And so we went to LaPlante in South Dakota to work with Simply Smiles, the organization that ran this summer camp. And the reason they're called Simply Smiles is because they're really trying to make these kids have a happier day every single day of the summer. They bring these kids to the camp and try to make them happy every single time. And I knew that that was the purpose the whole week, but I don't think I really understood it until this moment occurred probably on Thursday, I think it was, one of the last days of the kid trip. So the whole week we were running around with the kids, having a lot of fun, and there was this game, the kids called it House, that we played, where there was like 7 or 8 kids that were probably around 8 or 9 each that pretended to be like members of a family, and I would pretend to be the dad, and there was another volunteer that is not with us who came from a different area who helped out with that too. And one of the kids who really got into the game, her name was Bailey, and of course I played this game with her the whole week. And on Thursday, she started to accuse me of drinking beer. She said I drank beer a lot. And since I was the father, that made me understand that she thought that was normal. When she told me that, she said it with a smile on her face and a laughing voice. And it made me realize that that's what she was used to. At home, she was used to a father who had a drinking problem, and she didn't necessarily know anything else. And for me to realize that, I understood that her home life must not have been that great. And to see her so happy at this camp, I also realized that this was where she was at her happiest. And I was a part of that. I was able to make her happy during this week, and just knowing that made my whole view of the trip change. She went to this camp, had a happier time, and perhaps I improved her life in that way. And just to be able to do that was really remarkable. Thank you.
So I'm going to speak a little about like the aftermath of the trip for all of us. So the trip meant a lot to us all, and we created like incredible bonds with not only the kids on the reservation, but the staff, the Simply Smiles staff, and the other teenage volunteers from Connecticut and North Carolina. So it was really emotional leaving the reservation on the last day. We not only had to say goodbye to the kids the day before on Friday, which was the hardest thing I think I've ever done. We drove them home on the bus, and the little girls that we had spent the whole week with had to have run back on the bus like 8 times to say goodbye again, so they kept hugging us, and I was like trying not to cry, and then the bus drove away, and I lost it. Liz and I looked at each other and we just started crying. And that's pretty much how the flight home went too. Liz and Bella and I would make eye contact, and then we'd start crying. So that's just a little bit about how everyone felt like leaving. Like it meant so much to us all that saying goodbye was really, really hard. And the first thing that I'm sure we all thought about was what we could do once we got home to help the kids. So yeah, that's a little bit about how much it meant to us all. And I plan on going back next summer. And like Julianne said, I don't really think anyone can tell you about the experience because there's no words to sum it up. It wasn't just a summer camp, and it wasn't just, I don't know, it wasn't just another week, you know, it was something really special.
I'm Lizzie, that is my uncle, and I went with this group. I'm not like talking about anything in specific, but I'm just talking about my experience when I went. And I think, again, I don't mean to be repetitive, but like everyone has said before, you can't really explain it. It's something that happens to you and you're always gonna remember it. And I, like all of them, would love to go again, and I'm going to go again. And one of the things that really sticks with you when you go is just seeing the kids' faces light up every day when they come in to see you, and playing games with them all day until you're tired and they're tired, and they go home and sleep and then come back the next day and want to do it again. And just affecting them in that way is just the most amazing experience that you can really have.
All right, so basically what we were doing on a day-to-day basis, I don't know if you remember, but past groups have done a lot of construction. We weren't really there to do that. I mean, the adults did a little bit after a crazy storm, tore down like horseshoe roofs and stuff. But mostly we were just there to run a summer camp, and it was pretty hectic. There's just a lot of activities. Like every morning we would wake up, and before the kids arrived, we would just plan out our day. There's just different activities that every person who was there brought to the table. But some of the kids, you know, they didn't want to do any of the activities, so it was as simple as just going to the park with them and playing house. Or it could be making bracelets, doing improv games, arts and crafts, any of that. Really just being there for the kids, letting them know that people care about them and that they can be what they want to be. So, for example, the girl Bailey that Alex was talking about, like, one of the things that I helped with was like making little iMovie trailers, and she was really into it, and as I asked her, like, do you want to be an actress when you grow up? And she said, yeah. I said, all right, well, you can do that, and you should do that. I think there's a big spectrum of kids. Some of them were really hard to deal with at first, but I think once you spent enough time with them, you really understood where they're coming from and how much they really need someone to care about them. For example, on the first night before the camp actually started, there was a community dinner where we got to meet some of the kids for the first time. And you know, they all arrived with their parents, and the volunteers tried to make relationships with them, and I thought I should make a relationship with them. And I was pretty bad at it at first. There was this one kid who he was playing this game, Hot Lava, and he was climbing on the roof of the playground. I tried to get him down, and he like spit on me 8 times. He had a lot of difficulties in his life. But then on the last night, there was another community dinner, and he wanted to get in on the game of house. He wanted some of the attention that these other kids were getting. So he wanted to be the cousin, and he wanted me to be his father. And he, you know, was hugging me and asking me he would only like go somewhere if I told him it was okay, or, you know, he was really affectionate, and I thought that was pretty sweet.
So we have some images of our trip that we'll show you and talk a little bit more as we see them.
So this is just a slideshow of our trip. So that was the church that we stayed at the first night in Minneapolis when we arrived. This is the car we went in. We used social media as shown on the back of the car to try to gain more support for our trip. This was when we first arrived in the reservation. That was the shining river in the background. These are the planes. And this is when we first arrived at the community center where the kids would play. This was what Sam was calling the park. And this was our schedule for the week inside the bunkhouse where we stayed. That was our little coffee area. And this was Bella. You can't really see it, but that is the mat that one of the kids who went before this trip, before we went, left there from Brattleboro. So that was kind of cool to see. This is us, the first day. That was the garden that a couple of kids were helping out with. Then there was the basketball. We played so much basketball. So much basketball. And then there was us in the community center playing cards. We did a lot of that in our free time.
Yeah, I mean, we played a lot of basketball. This is one of the volunteers who is an adult human. A lot of older teenagers who. This is us going through orientation. That was one of the local men who came in to talk to us. Building disc golf targets here, designed by Rob. And yeah, I believe this is the first day, maybe not. But yeah, this is just kind of what we were doing. We were, building bracelets, making bracelets, designing bags, stuff like that. Arts and crafts. Yeah, there's a big greenhouse there that they're trying to increase the amount of vegetables that the kids get to eat, because one of the biggest problems in the reservation is obesity. So Simply Smiles has built a greenhouse for that purpose. With some goo. Kids really, really like the goo. They had to put away the goo so that the kids wouldn't get it everywhere. We would plan it out. Soccer. We made soccer goals for the kids to play on, and they really liked it.
So yeah, we made these soccer nets. I didn't actually, but they did, and they love soccer, so that was pretty interesting to see them running around. One of the morning things we could do is just paint with the kids. We did some printmaking and stuff. This is again just playing with the kids, because that's really all it was. And this is the disc golf in action. They love that too, until it got blown away. So one of the things we do is we drive the kids up from their towns, and we bring them to the reservation. So that was a picture of that, and then we do chores after dinner, and just hang out with some kids. Or soccer.
Yes, so there was a really intense storm one evening that woke us up and literally was shaking our bunkhouse. It was very frightening. The lightning was very, very intense. When we woke up in the morning, we found out that it did a lot of damage and it blew the roof off. It blew the roof off of the latrine, but it also blew the roof off of the horseshoe pits, which was very important to them. And so we started working on it in the morning, and some guys from the reservation came. Horseshoe is very important to them. and they helped rebuild the horseshoe pits. And the staff there was really happy about that because they often don't participate in the work on the community center, but something had broken that they really cared about, and they were really, really happy that they were participating in that. That's the group of other kids with these kids, volunteers, and here's some cards. Sarah?
Sarah, what are you doing here?
Oh, I'm making cards. I'm putting up the paper and I'm making it into a tree. Dakota, what are you doing? You're making a card? What is it? Is that the ocean? Yeah, I'm reading a sunset to my car.
So as you can see, that's how most of the days went. We just hung out with kids one-on-one or in big groups. This was more repair on latrines. And these were some quotes that we liked that were hung up in our bunkhouse. So under promise, over deliver is one that really stuck with me. I believe this is the poetry station that Julianne ran. And this again are all the volunteers. And we're all still in touch with them. That's the disc golf course map. And this was the Saturday morning that we left the reservation. And it was windy. And then we got back with our Simply Smile shirts on. And that's the trip.
So there had been the thought that if people wanted to ask a couple questions, the kids would be willing to answer, so. Anybody have a question for the? There, Curtis.
So how many kids attended the camp every day?
We kind of had a smallish week. We went to the week of July 4th, which they actually celebrated really intensely, which kind of surprised us. They had fireworks like every day. So Max was like, they said they've had up to 60 kids come a day, but since we went the week of the 4th, a lot of kids were celebrating, and especially the day after the 4th of July, numbers were pretty low. I would say like in the 30s because kids were tired from celebrating. But yeah, a lot of kids, and the Simply Smile staff drove up to 45 minutes a day to get kids in the towns. Like they transported all the kids.
Two things. One, just an observation that Gamey talked about playing house with the kids. For all of you, what a powerful thing that must have been to kind of act out their lives. But I kind of wondered as well, did you have some music with them, or did they sing songs of theirs with you, or is there some music at all?
Well, Kids Bop was huge. We listened to a lot of Kids Bop.
One of the things that I found out there was that they were into a lot of the kind of culture that we see. They didn't, a lot of the problem with what happened to them a long time ago, the Lakota people, was they lost a lot of culture due to, white people putting their ancestors in camps and really just stripping them of their culture. So their kids, they don't know a lot about Lakota culture, and one of the goals of Simply Smiles is to educate them on that. And there's a school that they sent them to, what was it called, Will? St. Joseph's down farther away in South Dakota that taught a lot about Lakota history, and the hope was that Simply Smiles could get the kids there.
What kind of foods do they normally eat?
They eat what they get for free. Like they eat a lot of their like government food boxes, which is not very healthy food. And I was surprised, they have the greenhouse, but it's very tough because the soil there is not equipped for growing plants. So we had to like, the gardening that we did was Liz and I just like breaking open like bags of potting soil so that they could grow things. So what we ate and what the kids ate during camp with us was not necessarily great. I don't know, the kids, they don't eat very well, to answer your question.
You talked about beginning to brainstorm what you could do when you got home. Can you say more about that?
Well, I was kind of an emotional mess when I got home, so I kind of was a little irrational and wanted to send everything that I had ever had to them. But after thinking about it a little more, I just wanted to tell everyone I knew about what I had experienced, and the tough part about that is that you can't. So, especially other teenagers like our age that are like, oh, you've been to summer camp, like I worked at Memorial Park, and I'm like, yeah, I know, but it's not really the same. So, I guess that is what I meant. I'm going to write them letters. I have the P.O. box address that I can do, and I'm looking forward to going back. And there's a children's home in Mexico that I think a few members of this church are going to soon, and I'm really interested in that too.
Okay, I think we're going to stop now just for the sake of everybody, even though I'm sure we could sit for hours. Thank you. You really touched us. I'd just like to thank Rob and Julianne and all of you kids for making the effort. It's a huge effort to fundraise, to get the word out, to go, to come back, to reimburse. And it's a huge effort, and I think it makes a huge difference. So just thank you. So we have a choir man.
O Great Spirit, we are filled with gratitude to find ourselves together once again, embracing the hope of young travelers and their companions.
Let us worship the Creator with hearts open to all peoples, where pride and prejudice once dwelt.
Comforting and loving God, who strengthened us with courage and emboldens our resolve, cast out our fears of one another, of differences we don't understand, of traditions and customs that confuse us.
Let us worship the Creator with minds open to the wisdom of native peoples, where listening and respect once had no place.
Let us honor the one who freely gives by showing honor to those who were once and still remain oppressed.
Let us worship the God of diversity, who made the world in colors, in seasons, in endless variety, who created the diversity of the earth's peoples in his image.
Let us also ask for forgiveness for the ways that we have created brokenness, perhaps even benefited from injustice, and we ask for a guiding vision for all peoples and nations.
Let us remain with the struggle in our hearts so that we can be open to the first peoples of this place and this nation, our brothers and sisters, and especially to the people in LaPlante and Swiftburg, South Dakota.
Be with refugees and those seeking asylum.
Be with the homeless as days turn cold.
Be with those recovering from Hurricane Florence and Maria, and with those who may never recover.
Be with all in need of hope and healing.
Make us instruments of your peace. In Christ's name we ask this.
Amen.
Amen.
Let us join together now in the prayer that Christ taught us. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. Sarah's words might have touched all of our hearts. What is it that we can give? What is it that we can do to heal a worried world? Let us hope that as we each give what we can today, it is a part of the beginning of some healing. In Christ's name we ask this. a blessing on all who offer what they can today. Would also ask that you take these gifts that they too may be a blessing for this weary, weary world. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. Let us pass the peace of God to one another. Our time of worship is now complete. Our service continues. Let us keep the candle burning for the people of LaPlante and Swiftburg as we go forward into the week. May God bless you. May God keep you. May God's face shine upon you and give you peace now and forever. Amen.